everyone, welcome back to my channel. My name's Helen and today I'm going to be doing my April and May wrap up. I'm sorry it's been a long time. I've started a new job. It's another temporary job at the university, so I've kind of just been concentrating on that and swapping my days around. I work 3 days a week, so trying to fit things in has been interesting. It's coming up with a new routine because before I was working 1 till 9 every night. Now I'm working 10 till 4:30, 3 days a week, or moving my hours around to suit what I need to do within work. So that was a long-winded way of saying that's why I've not been around for a while. So this wrap up, like I said, is April and May, but that covers Eurovisionathon as well. So without further ado, I will go through some stats and then I will tell you the books. It's just a whistle-stop tour. I won't be going into the detail of every book. So if you like the sound of any of them, go and check them out for yourself. So I read 23 books across April and May. 3 of those were gifted, 7 were from the library, 11 were that I owned on my TBR or for Eurovisionathon, probably bought just before in order to read them, and then 2 were borrowed from other people, i.e. Andy and Sophie had books on their shelves that I used for probably prompts. So of those, the breakdown, 3 were romance, 9 were non-fiction, I've just lumped all them together, 3 were middle grade or children's books, 1 was a historical fiction, 1 was a comic type book, 1 was a poetry book, 2 were literary fiction or what I would class as literary fiction, 1 was like a murder mystery, and then 2 were what I would class as contemporary fiction. I haven't got the page count here. Probably next time I will try and do that. What I am doing this time is using Compile. So at the end of the year, I will have a lovely bank of information and graphics that I can show, and I'm quite proud that I've managed to keep that up all the way through because I like the idea of getting to the end of the year. I love watching the videos where people have got graphics and you can see the breakdown of all their reading. So I will now go through the 23 books. I will start with April's. So the first one I read was Maya's Law of Love by Alina Kawaja. This was a romance book. I gave it 3 stars. It was one that I was gifted from Simon & Schuster. I am part of the Books in the City group, so they send me books to review. I'm on book tours for them and things like that. So I read that one. I did enjoy it. 3 star for me is I enjoyed it. 2 star and 1 star, obviously not some, definitely not. And then 4 stars is it's way more than average, and then 5 star is like it was fantastic. I probably won't stop thinking about it. So 3 stars is a good rating for me. I know some people just see it as a really average book and it's fine. For me, it's like I really enjoyed this, and so yeah, 3 stars for that one. Next I read, sorry, I've got my notes just so you know why I'm looking aside. Bibliotherapy, The Healing Power of Reading by Bijal Shah. I will put all the books, pictures of the books here. This was a non-fiction about somebody who is a bibliotherapist who provides books for people where they are in their life and what she feels like they need at their time. I would love that job. I gave it 4 stars, really enjoyed it. Go and check it out if you want to. The next one was Truth Be Told, Tales from a Baggy Mouth by Linda Robson. I do like to read autobiographies of people that I like in the public eye, or ones that I would find really interesting. The problem I have is I don't necessarily want to hear about their childhood, and that sounds awful. Well, not really, it's what you're interested in, isn't it? But you know, I'm more interested in the people that they've worked with and the relationships that they've had on maybe TV shows that they've been on or films that they've been in, or how they've overcome certain things in their career. So the thing that puts me off those type of books is the beginning bit. If I can get over that bit, or it's quite, some people do it where they flash backwards and forwards, and that seems to suit me better. This one I really enjoyed. I gave it 4 stars. I love Linda Robson. She's really down to earth. What I did struggle with, and it was like probably in the first few pages of the book, she kind of called herself a national treasure. And for me personally, I don't think you can call yourself that. I think other people can call you that. So that kind of set me off on that tone of wow. And she doesn't strike me as somebody who's full of herself, but that did surprise me. But she's been through a lot in her life. Quite recently, she's been through a quite public breakup with her husband, who she'd been with for quite a long time. She discussed her relationship with Pauline Quirke, which has been in the media a lot. So yeah, I found that really good. So if you like Linda Robson, I think you will enjoy that book. Then I read The Christmas Club by Mel Taylor Besant. I know it was April and it's a Christmas book, but this is a family that loves Christmas all year round. It's a middle grade book. I bought all three for me and Sophie to read together. We read the first two and loved them. The third one, it was slow getting through for Sophie in particular. So I decided, she didn't want to carry on with it, so I decided to finish the set off. I can't not finish the set, particularly if I'm enjoying it. So it was a trilogy. Enjoyed it. It's lovely for children. I don't know if there are any more coming. But yeah, I love those books, and the sprayed edges from Waterstones are beautiful. Then I'm leading on to Eurovisionathon. So for Eurovisionathon, I read 15 countries altogether. I got 2,615 points because those countries got those points in Eurovisionathon. Only 12 of my books counted towards my total because Poland were kicked out in the semi-finals, Belgium were kicked out in the semi-finals, and then the Netherlands were disqualified, which was very disappointing because otherwise I think they'd have done quite well. So yeah, 15 countries altogether. So I will go through these. So the first chunk are from April. So I read one called No Points by Tim Moore. If you've watched my Eurovisionathon books before, you will have seen that was on my shelf for a long time. It was basically a non-fiction book looking at the acts that had got nil points in Eurovision over the years from a certain date to a certain date. Put it this way, he managed to squash in Gemini from the UK. So I gave that book 4 stars. I really enjoyed it. I liked the concept of him travelling to meet these people. Some people didn't want to meet with him because they didn't want to relive it. You can tell with these people that it really did have an effect on them, that they got nil points in Eurovisionathon. But I liked seeing where they were up to now, what they thought about it, if some of them are still in the industry. So as much as I kept putting that off because I thought it was going to be quite research based and a lot of like Eurovision stats and going deeper than I wanted it to, it wasn't really like that. So yeah, I really enjoyed that concept, and I like the idea of those type of books where they go and hunt out people. I'm pretty sure there were programs like that. I think what was his name, Justin Lee Collins used to go and try and find actors from old TV programs or films. I don't think I watched any of them at the time, but I like the idea. So that was I used that for Portugal. Then for Spain, I read a book called The Gathering Place by Mary Colwell. It was another book about the walking the Camino trail, and I love the idea of that. One day I hope to do it. I've read about 5 books about it now. I've probably seen about 2 films, and I've watched all the pilgrimage programs that the BBC come up with. So yeah, 3 stars. Okay. Norway, I read A Time for Trolls, fairy tales from Norway. So some of the fairy tales you could tell were kind of retellings of ones we'd already know, but some were specific to Norway or had a Norwegian twist. I gave that 3 stars. I read it like that. It was so quick. Then I read The House of Fortune by Jessie Burton for the Netherlands. I gave this 5 stars. I read The Miniaturist back in 2021 for Eurovisionathon, I think it was. It wasn't the group book that year, but a lot of us were reading it for the Netherlands, so we kind of did use it as a group book and we discussed it in the Discord. But there was a lot of loose ends to that book and a lot of questions at the end of it, and I was like, oh. And I do remember giving that 3 stars. Cut to 3 years later, and I read this for Eurovisionathon, and I've looked back at my 2022, or was it 2021? 2022 mid-year freakout tag, and I had that as an anticipated read, and I still didn't read it. So now I have read it. It was 5 stars. I loved it, and it did answer the questions that I wanted. I don't think there'll be another one coming from that. I kind of felt like that was an ending. Excuse me, I needed a drink. So yeah, that was for the Netherlands, 5 stars. Then I read for Belgium. I did my usual and looked on eBay, and I found Asterix in Belgium, which is like the comic, like Asterix and Obelix. And they do different ones. So next year I'll probably find a different one for a different country and read that. Read it really quickly. It was entertaining. It was comical. I give it 3 stars. Don't really read comics much, the same as I don't really read that many graphic novels and stuff, because I like the text. I like there to be more behind the story. You know, I like looking at the pictures, but I sometimes feel a little bit, and it's just me, I'm not saying other people are, but I feel a little bit like I'm cheating because I'm reading the books too quick. And I know that's not, and it's fine, and if you get enjoyment from it, that's great, which is why I recently watched Leandra the Book Zero's video about cat manga. I don't read any manga, but I have now downloaded a lot onto off my library app. I've put them onto my phone, and I'm going to try some of them because I love cats, and I need to get out of this barrier of it because it's so quick to get through. I feel like I've not really read the book. Yeah, it's weird, and I don't feel it about other people. I just feel it about myself, and I don't know why. So I will carry on and pursue that and see how I get on. For the UK, I read United with Dad by Simon Lloyd. I mentioned in my Eurovisionathon announcement video that Andy had met Simon through the United Ladies fan base. He didn't. It's through the male team, and I got that wrong in that video, so I thought this would be the time, finally, when the wrap up comes up, to say that I'd got that wrong. As you know, I'm not a football fan. Andy is a massive Man United fan, but I liked the idea of reading this book because it was about a father and son and their experience through... It's a non-fiction, so it's about Simon and his dad, and him going with his dad as a little boy and going with his dad as he's older, and then hoping that his dad will be able to take his son Ethan to the football. It's a sad tale, I can say that, and I won't say any more, but what I will say is, even if you are not into football, I am not into football, if you've got somebody who's into sport, if you've got somebody who's into a hobby and does it with their parent, I do think that you will find this story interesting. I did. You know, there were obviously football parts in it. I kind of read them, but kind of breezed through them because I don't know what positions are and when that goal happened, but it doesn't affect the feelings that you get from this story, and I'm so glad I read it. But since this, there's another gentleman who's coming out with a book about people of Manchester, and he's actually said to him, I'll see if I can get Helen to read it for UK in Eurovisionathon next year. So yeah, Andy's up for this challenge as well. And I like that because with the UK, sorry, I'm just putting it back. With the UK, I can't get it in. I'm going to put it to one side. With the UK, there are so many books that I've got that are UK based because I live in the UK. So I like that there's that extra element of I know the author, or Andy knows the author, or there's something that kind of draws me to it more. So yeah, definitely read United with Dad, even if you're not a football fan. If you are close to your parent, if you like reading about those kind of stories, you know, it just, yeah, it was just very special. So then I read for Poland A Chip Shop in Poznan by Ben Aitken. This is a non-fiction. I like travel books. I read most of those during Eurovisionathon because I just love reading about travel through other people. I gave this 1 star. Sophie really, really, really wanted me to read a book for Poland. So even though I wasn't sure that Poland would do very well in Eurovisionathon, and it kind of suggested from the bookies odds that they weren't going to do very well, she wanted me to read it because her friend had just left her school to go back to Poland, where he's originally from, and so she's got a real connection with Poland because he lives there, and so she wanted me to read for Poland. So I looked on all the usual places, and in the end I had Audible credits that had cost me 99p, I think. So I ordered the audiobook of A Chip Shop in Poznan, which is basically about this author Ben Aitken who goes to Poland and lives there for a while, and he ends up working in a chip shop. I don't know if it was his writing style, I don't know if it was the narrator, I don't know if it was because I wasn't in the mood for an audiobook at that time, But I've got to say, when I do listen to audiobooks on my commute, I do have to really pay attention and get into them. But once I have, I'm kind of okay, and then I can judge it off that. But I was skip whole bits of this were going in and not registering, and so I missed chunks. I kept having to go back and re-listen, and then I got to the point where some of it I was just like, I don't know what really happened there, but carry on. I didn't enjoy it, so I gave it 1 star. However, I've just finished reading one by the same author for June. I have given it a higher rating, and so I will talk about that in my June wrap up. And I'm saying it here now that I am going to do a June wrap up, so hold me accountable. But yeah, I gave that 1 star, and I very rarely give 1 stars. I kind of tend to DNF. So, but I wanted to read for Poland for Eurovisionathon because Sophie wanted me to, and that's kind of why I didn't give up on it. So that was that. Then that finished for April, and then I moved on to May. And Eurovisionathon carried on. So I read for Greece, The Summer at the Santorini Bookshop by Rebecca Raisin. I was kindly sent this from HQ Stories, so I'd like to do a shout out there for them sending me this. They'd put out about this book coming out and would anybody like to have a copy of it. And I said it would be perfect for Eurovisionathon for Greece, and they sent it to me, which is why the book that I've constantly said I'm going to read for Greece, My Family and Other Animals, by Gerald Durrell, has still not been read, because I got this and I thought, well, I can't really, after saying I'm going to read it for Eurovisionathon, not read it. So this overtook. So that is the reason why I've not unhauled that book, because there were exceptional circumstances as to why I didn't read it. So yeah, I gave this one 3 stars. I liked it. It was good. There was just sometimes with books like these, with romances now, I find quite a lot are just a bit cheesy in parts, a bit too convenient, a bit, I don't know what the word is, but there was something about it that just didn't get a 4 star for me. But I did enjoy it, and if you love books and the idea of working in a bookshop, I mean, Santorini, I'd love to go there. It's beautiful. Yeah, it was a good time. So yeah, that's that one for Greece. Then for France, I read Who Will Run the Frog Hospital by Laurie Moore. This was one of the books that was on a shelf in Waterstones in the sale, and I thought, well, why not? It's quite short. It's like a coming of age story. What did I give it? I actually gave it 4 stars. I did enjoy it. I remember having a Laurie Moore book on my shelves years ago called, I think it was called Anagrams, but I might be wrong. And I never ended up reading that one. It's long gone now. But yeah, if you are looking for Eurovision in future, you want a short book for France, that was quite enjoyable. So yeah, like I said, I'm not going to read into what all of them are about, but yeah, this was a good time. 4 stars. It must have been better than average. Yeah, this is why I need to do my wrap-ups closer to when I read them, because I get to the point where some of them I've just forgot what they're about, and I read that much now. There's no chance, unless it's stand out, that I'm going to remember. For Ireland, I read Turning the Wheel, Island to India by Bicycle by Simon Laughlin. I didn't really have in mind what I was going to read this book for, because he travels through quite a few places. Like, he travels through Greece and Italy and France and Switzerland. So I wasn't sure when I started it what I was going to pick it for. But because he started in Ireland and he mentioned that quite a bit, I ended up using it for Ireland. You know how I feel about travel books. I really loved them. This like, it looked a bit self-published. Yeah, I'm pretty sure this book's self-published as well. I think I got this one on Amazon. I tend to go on a lot of different channels and type in countries, eBay, Amazon, and that's why I end up going on like Everand and Audible, and I just type in countries and then find books this way. But yeah, I enjoyed this one. He gets into quite a lot of scrapes, some quite dangerous, and I just think, gosh, when you're really traveling on your own, I know it must feel very freeing, and you know, you're going under your own steam, you can pick where you want to go and what you want to do. But he gets into a lot of scrapes in this book, and it was quite frightening at times. But I gave this one 4 stars. I really enjoyed it. I just love books like this, and it just gives me that real wanderlust feeling it's just, it doesn't compute to real life. Well, one, because I haven't got the luxury of just being able to jump on a bike and go across Ireland to India, because I have a child, I have a house to pay for, I have a husband who I want to spend time with, so I can't just go and do those things. But there's a lot of walking books that I read that I think I could do some of these walks. I would just have to take time off work, especially if it's going to be one that's going to take 1 or 2 weeks, and maybe doing some wild camping and things like that. But yeah, I'm getting there, and one day, and maybe I'll vlog it and show it to you. So yeah, I used that one for Ireland. Then I read for Italy, Around the World in 72 Days by Nellie Bly. I was gifted this on Twitter, so I will try and put up who gifted this to me at the time. It's a long time since it was given to me, but I saved it specifically for Eurovisionathon. Again, this one looks like it was kind of, when I say self-published, it's not. Nellie Bly was, well, we're talking, she's redoing Around the World in 80 Days back in that time. So it was, you know, we're talking like 1900s, 1800s time away. I cannot remember what date. Let's see. That's not going to tell me, is it? But we're talking many years ago. And so she does travel through different places, but I decided to use it for Italy. I gave it 3 stars. It was fine. It was quite rushed. I think they've wrote this book after From Her Diaries, or I think they have anyway. I'm not 100% sure. But for Eurovisionathon, being that short, getting through it quite quick, I like the idea of a woman saying, "I'm gone, I can do that quicker." So yeah, was worth a read. Enjoyed it. Didn't take me long at all. Then I read She Will Soar by Anna Sampson, and I used it for Finland because there was a Finnish author in it, but there was lots of different authors from lots of different countries. I gave it 3 stars. Poetry isn't totally my bag. I have took a picture of a few that meant something to me. I guess I'm just always looking for that poem that really speaks to me and says something about my life, or links to something in my life that I can really hold on to. I wouldn't say I particularly found that in here, but there were a couple that I liked the idea of, or I liked quotes from. But again, I liked poems that were suggested from bright, brave women. And so I was always going to pick this up when I saw it on the sale shelf in Waterstones and give it a go, particularly because I'm trying to branch out and try new styles of writing. Like I said recently, I'm trying manga. I want to reach out and try things like poetry. Another one I should probably try again, I think I've only read one before, is books in verse. But again, they just don't really appeal. And there's nothing wrong with reading what you like and what you're used to. It's just sometimes nice to try it, because if something hits off with you, off you go. So yeah, She Will Soar, used for Finland, gave 3 stars. Then I read for Switzerland, Time Shelter by Georgi Gospodinov. This is actually by a Bulgarian author. You will remember that when I worked at the library for the university, a new colleague joined who was originally from Bulgaria, and I asked him if he knew of any Bulgarian books, and he recommended this one. However, then I realised that Bulgaria weren't in Eurovision, so I was a bit disappointed. However, this book is set in Switzerland, and I only realised that partway through the readathon, and so I thought, right, I'm going to use that for Switzerland. I gave this one 3 stars. It made me feel quite uncomfortable, but I think it was a me thing rather than a book thing. It is talking about coming up with a house that people can stay in who've got dementia, and they live in rooms where it's completely 1950s, completely 1960s, completely 1970s, because it's shown in research. This was a fiction book, but it's a known thing in research that because people sometimes digress back to those times when they've got dementia, that's where they feel comfortable, that's where they feel safe. And so the idea behind this is that this gentleman had come up with a hospital where they could go and stay. But then it turned to, they were going to come up with a whole like city that people could live in, where they could live in that environment properly. Then they had people who were so miserable in real life and what was going on currently that they wanted to live as a well person in that area, because that was a happier time in 1950s or 1960s. Then it became a big thing that whole countries were having referendums on what era the country should live in. And it just went, and it became this massive thing. So read it if that sounds interesting to you. But for me, it was like, when there's a book that I think, God, could you imagine this could happen? With the way things are going and how weird things are sometimes, I could see whole countries deciding, we'll all live in this time. And that's the thing, if you don't want to live in that time, you'd have to move to another place. But I think there was restrictions on that, and it sent my head. And so I was glad to finish it, to be honest, because I started feeling really anxious, but I wanted to complete it. One, for the readathon, two, because I got so far through it and I liked the original concept, but I liked it when it was like, this person, you know, it feels so safe in the 1950s, so let's surround them with the old records from that time and the wallpaper that they used to have in that house and reading the newspapers from that time. And then it just got bigger and bigger and bigger. So yeah, Time Shelter, interesting book, but I wouldn't read it again. Then I read for Croatia. I read The Secret Cove in Croatia by Julia Kaplan. I've read quite a few of her books for Eurovisionathon. I gave this one 4 stars. Another romance book, very nice, enjoyed it. Never quite reached the 5-star for me, but I don't mind. 4-star, great score, happy. And then lastly, I read for Cyprus. I read a book called Death in Cyprus, which is one I think I got off eBay. Yeah, see, I'm having to read because it didn't stick with me that much. What did I say? I give it 3 stars. It hasn't really stuck with me. Now that I'm thinking of it and reading a little bit at the back, I do remember little bits. It's not a thriller by any sense of the imagination, so if you're wanting lots of like tension and stuff like that, you're not really going to get it from this book. It's more of a murder mystery, more of an easygoing murder mystery like Murder, She Wrote or Death in Paradise, that kind of thing, and even a little bit tamer than that. So yeah, enjoyed it, glad I found it. This book is from 1980 something, I want to say 2 years before I was born. So I'm always glad to find books like that I wouldn't necessarily find now because it's probably out of print now. But being able to find it because somebody else is giving it away on eBay, fantastic. But 3 stars. I then read Nina Peanut is Amazing with Sophie. I found this on the shelves of a supermarket while we were going past. It's by a lady called Sarah Bowie. It's basically like a comic / graphic novel type book for kids. Lovely story, really enjoyed it. The next one is coming out in, I want to say July or September. Sophie's really excited about it. That's why I'm excited about it. I gave this 5 stars because not all books that I read with Sophie I give 5 stars, but if we've got a real enjoyment between us and we've really bonded over a story because we're excited to read it every night together, we read a page each, it's exciting, I'm going to give that 5 stars because it's about the reading experience as well. So if you've got somebody who you are struggling to get, I don't really struggle to get Sophie to read because she's always loved reading, but she's got specific tastes and I know what she likes. But if you've got somebody who you're struggling to get to read, this kind of book with the funny pictures and the cartoons might be the way to do it. And so yeah, Nina Peanut is amazing. 5 stars, she is amazing. The unfortunate thing is this weekend, I think it's out Cheshire Way, that author Sarah Bowie is doing Inner Waterstones, I think, like a drawing exercise and like around the book, or I don't know if it's because the new book's coming out or just from this one. I would have loved to take Sophie to that, but we have plans on Saturday and I don't want to cancel them. So but it's on, so if you have a look for Sarah Bowie Nina Peanut and look for an event, it's happening on Saturday in Waterstones, Cheshire Way, I think, and it's in the afternoon. Because I would be taking to Sophie that if we didn't already have plans. The next book I read was The Idea of You by Robin Lee. This is a book I've had on my shelves for a while. I went to a what are they called? Motorway service station. A local one. We were on the way back from my mum and dad. Sophie needed the toilet. We went inside. I went in the WH Smiths in there. This was really cheap, and so was People Like Her by Hilary Lloyd, which I still need to read. But I've had it on my shelves for a long time. I like the idea of it. It's about an older woman, by older woman 39, so not that old because she's only a couple of years older than me. But she ends up meeting a boy band with her daughter because of her daughter, and ends up keeping in touch with one of the boy band members and starting an affair with him. And she doesn't tell her daughter for ages because obviously that's a bit awkward. And so, yeah, it develops. I'm not going to give the spoiler, but I heard about the Amazon Prime, well, it's a film really, isn't it? Film with Anne Hathaway. And so I thought, do you know what, now's the time to read it, because if I watch that, I'm not going to read the book. And I'm glad I did it that way, because I preferred the book to the programme. I liked the film and I'm glad I've watched it, but I feel that that was rushed. They were trying to fit all of this into that. It didn't really fall. It was good and I liked it. I liked the ending to that better. They've kind of left it a bit open. This was quite a definite ending, and so I prefer the ending of the film, but I like the way the relationship develops in the book. So yeah, I'm really glad I read this. I think I gave this 5 stars actually. Yeah, I did. And then there was a bit of a theme, because there is another book, well, actually, that I've read in June, that's about an older woman and a younger man. And so I will talk about that in June, but I felt like that, because it was only like a few books after that I read that one as well, and I didn't know that was about that. So it was, yeah, there was a bit of a theme there. So yeah, 5 stars, The Idea of You by Robin Lee. Definitely give that a go if you like the sound of that. Then I read Elodie's Library of Second Chances by Rebecca Raisin. I gave this 3 stars. Rebecca Raisin is the same one who wrote the Santorini Bookshop, and I didn't compute. My mum had given me some books that she'd finished with, and this was one of them. And so yeah, I didn't click for a while. I've actually read 3 books by her. I've read one before and forgot all about it. So yeah, I like the idea of this because it's about a woman who decides to move to a small village after she has a few issues in her life. Then ends up helping to, well, not helping, like resetting up the library there. And it's called the Library of Second Chances because she's helping people in the community who the community have kind of give up on, and she's giving them a second chance, and she's welcoming them into the library where they haven't always felt welcome. And so it is a lovely story. But I give it 3 stars. I'm sure Rebecca Raisin can get more than 3 stars from me, but just that's how I felt about it at the time. But again, I love books set in bookshops, set in libraries, and so I was always going to read that one. Finally, the last book of April was Landlines by Raina Wynn. Raina Wynn wrote The Salt Path, then she wrote, what was the second one called? I can't remember what the second one was called, but it's a trilogy. It's a non-fiction. Her husband has got a brain issue, a deteriorating disease. It's so sad, but she finds that him going on these long jaunts, long walks, really helps with his condition. But there's peaks and troughs with that, and there's times when he goes and it doesn't seem like it's really helping, and so she's got that struggle. And so yeah, I really wanted to finish this trilogy off. It's been a while since I've read the other 2, but this time they're walking around Scotland, and then they decide to walk all the way home to where they live on the Cornish coast. Loved it, gave it 4 stars. I really feel for this woman and her husband. I really hope he's still doing well. Because people have said she's cashing in on his condition. I really don't think she is. I think she's just wrote these diaries. And to be honest, if that bit of money will help with what he's going through and with their life, let them do it, because I find them entertaining. Entertaining as in entertaining to hear about their adventures and to hear about how his condition is affected because of this. Yeah, so that was quite emotional in parts as well. So there is my April and May wrap up. I'm sorry it took so long to come. I'm really happy with that. 23 books is great. 15 reads for Eurovisionathon was great too. Everybody had a lovely time. We had 2 people who got really high level of points and read pretty much all the countries. So yeah, if you want to join in with Eurovisionathon next year, please do. I am contemplating doing a mini version for Junior Eurovisionathon in November, but it depends where I'm up to with my job and where I'm up to in life. So yeah, thank you for watching, and I will see you next time. Bye.